This just in, police officers in Lancaster were asking people to be on the lookout for a man who robbed a store. And I think we do have his description. Can we take that? Let's take his description. Okay. This is the guy they wanted out on the lookout for. He's got a nose and some hair that goes like that, and he was wearing a hat at the time of this particular crime. He's got kind of a chin that comes down to almost a point. Stands about 5.
Trump's remarks about raking the forest were mocked. They highlight a real issue: the large scale of brush clearing. Experts have long recommended controlled burns and mechanical thinning to reduce fire risk. But red tape and funding delays left these warnings unheeded.
The mayor of Los Angeles is in Ghana as her city burns, but not to worry. Governor Gavin Newsom is on the scene. I'm sure he's wondering where it all went wrong.
I think we're all in the same path. We do have to do management, maintenance, and we'll be working also with environmental groups. They've really, I think everybody's seen the light. And I don't think we'll have this again to this extent. We're going to have to work quickly. We've got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests, very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. We have the management factor that I know Jerry's really been up on and very well. And Gavin is we're going to be looking at it together. And right now that seems to be a very big problem. And we're going to get that problem solved. In the Farm Bill, we're putting quite a bit of money, about $500 million in the Farm Bill for management and maintenance of the forests. We can't go through this every year. We go through this, and we're going to have safe forests.
Trump later tweeted the following: "The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, has done a terrible job of forest management. I told him from the first day we met that he must clean his forest floors regardless of what his bosses, the environmentalists, demand of him. Must also do burns and cut fire stoppers. Every year as the fires rage and California burns, it's the same thing, and then he comes to the federal government for money help. No more. Get your act together, Governor. You don't see close to the level of burn in other states." In 2024, Trump talked about this issue with Joe Rogan.
Your forests are dry as a bone.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dangerous.
Billions of dollars a year they spend on forest fires. And there's a case with the environment. They're not allowed to rake their forests because you're not allowed to touch it. When a tree falls down, after 18 months it becomes very dry. It's like, like real firewood. It's bad. When they fall,
right,
they're like, it's like lighting a match.
Yeah. And
you got to be able to clean. They call it maintain your forest. So I was with the head of Austria. He said, it's a shame. I see all those forest fires in California, and all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning rake it up, get rid of the leaves, get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the deadfall. I don't think you could rake the whole forest.
Well, I think
you can get rid of the deadfall, but raking all the leaves.
You could certainly get rid of the dead, okay?
Yeah, I think that's the real issue.
Environmentally, they don't want to do that. They said, it's got to be nature and all this stuff.
The guy that Los Angeles voted not to be mayor, who was defeated by the current mayor in Ghana, explained that the problems go even deeper.
Our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this, there's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen.
I have a pretty good guess as to what politicians will point their fingers to for these fires, though. Let's see what they said in 2020.
There is something so fundamental that also cannot be denied, and that is climate change. If you do not believe in science, I hope you believe in observed evidence. The debate is over around climate change. Just come to the state of California. Observe it with your own eyes. It's not an intellectual debate. It's not even debatable.
Climate change. And those who do not believe it do so at their own peril.
Mother Earth is angry. She's telling us, whether she's telling us with hurricanes on the Gulf Coast, fires in the West, whatever it is, that the climate crisis is real and has an impact.
The president has blamed the American West, and California in particular, for its own wildfires, saying that really they should sweep the forests. Literally, his idea is A, that climate change is a hoax. This is all a hoax. And B, the only places that get wildfires are places that deserve it because they don't do a good enough job sweeping the ground in the forest, like with brooms.
$1 Million Listing star Josh Altman joins me now. Josh, I heard a figure, 70% of Palisades residents will not return after the fires there. What does that mean for the county?
Yeah, David, thanks for having me again. I want to preface that statement and explain it a little bit. They're not going to not return because they don't want to return. Of course they want to go back there. For every one person leaving the Palisades, there's another 5 that would love to be there. They're not going to return because it's simple math. I don't believe they're going to be able to afford to rebuild. With most of the people that are heavily underinsured, with the cost of construction, lumber, steel. We're talking about $1,000 a foot building in the Palisades and in Malibu. And that's on top of getting a construction crew to show up to your site when there's 16,000 structures that have been burned between houses, schools, commercial spaces. It's a disaster. That's what I'm saying. I don't know that they'll be able to do it with the insurance.
What about the governor's claims that he's going to clear away some of the regulations that are involved not only in refurbishing but in new startups? I mean, has he followed through on any of those promises?
Okay, it's yet to be seen, but I will tell you the recipe for success is going to be cutting the red tape. Building a house, the process in California, which is just wrapped in red tape, is absolutely impossible. A year to get permits. You got the Coastal Commission, which could be another 2 years. It's time for the governor to start cutting the red tape. We got to move forward as a team. We got to get to finishing these houses so people can be there in 3 years, not 6 years. But I will tell you something. There's been a lot of ordinances and a lot of things on the state and local level that have to go. The mansion tax. That was the worst tax that was ever passed. Get rid of it for all the people who lost their houses. The wildlife ordinance, get rid of it. Start cutting the red tape. That's how we're going to get back to being strong Los Angeles.
Well, you got Donald Trump going there. The new president of the United States, he suggested 4 years ago that California should do the kind of things that a lot of people said would have, at the very least, made the fires less devastating than they were, bringing that water down from the north of California, collecting the rainwater, 90% of which just washes out into the ocean, dealing with those things, dealing with the underbrush. If that sort of stuff is done, if the president can now convince with his political capital Governor Newsom, who has no political capital right now, to do these things, might that make a difference in rebuilding the Palisades?
Yeah, I think it's a difference. I'm looking forward to Trump coming and actually seeing it with his own eyes. You have to see it. I have walked the Palisades. I have walked Malibu. It is way worse in person than you could ever imagine. Hopefully that will open up funding on the federal level, but we need Trump to pressure Newsom and Bass to start cutting the red tape because that's the only way that we're going to get done with it.
But again, in addition to the red tape, there are things that need to be done to prevent it. If you're investing in a property, it's not just for right now or for the duration of the rebuilding. It's for years to come. And if I fear that the same thing is going to happen next year or even 10 years from now, I might not be willing to buy into it or refurbish.
Yeah, we need to see that get done. And I will tell you, just from my clients calling me, a lot of them, of course, looking in the local areas to be as close as they can be to their normal life that they had. But a lot of them are very nervous to go up towards the mountains now.
Yes.
It's something that they're not going to do. Once you evacuate and your house gets burned, you're not going anywhere near the mountain. You're living in the flats. It's just the new way of life for those people.
Josh Altman, pleasure to talk to you. I really hope those folks do better in the immediate future, and particularly with the visit of Donald